I was working at a hospital as a nurse's aide, and I was talking with a patient, and I had a bachelor's degree in psychology, which doesn't really do much for you. And this patient was like, "You're really good at listening. You should become a therapist." And it just kind of clicked. I finished graduate school in 2010, but I took a little break in the middle of my mental health career. So worked as a therapist for a while, and then owned my own martial arts school. We relocated to Asheville, and I got the lay of the land a little bit, and then kind of accidentally stumbled onto Responder Support Services. Yeah, I saw the listing and I was like, oh yeah, first responders. Okay, this sounds interesting. And so I applied, and our human resources guy, Russ, gave me a call. We just kind of chit-chatted about, like, his first question, why do you want to work with first responders? I was like, well, because they're the coolest. Working as a nurse's aide, and my whole family are nurses, we had a lot of interaction with the police officers and the firefighters who would bring in kids. I worked in a college town. My parents owned a convenience store, so like our neighbor or our county's deputies would come and hang out in the parking lot, like at the end of the day, to make sure the ladies got into their car safely. Also, my husband was in the Marine Corps during 9/11, so that kind of knowing all of his friends and interacting with the military, it just felt like, yeah, absolutely, that population would be super fun to work with. It's so much more than just being a therapist. The embedded part, it's so necessary for us to be present with our agencies so they can get to know us in a different way versus just them randomly showing up to an office and sitting down with someone who is kind of a stranger to them. So the embedded piece of, like, the education that we provide, the contact that we have where we're accessible to them. So it feels a little bit more comfortable than when something comes up, because inevitably it will. It's not just some random person. Because we're embedded with our agencies, we kind of get to see how they progress, even when they've terminated. So that feels nice, that it's not like, oh, okay, bye, and then you never know what happens. But also, these are very highly functioning adults, and they're also very motivated. They're able to go to work even when they're having all of these, PTSD symptoms and marital issues, whatever it might be. It's wonderful to be able to see the progress really quickly because they're so motivated. They value their own time, so I feel like they respect our time as well. And we can conduct our sessions in a variety of ways. Some of our therapists will just jump in a car and do a ride along and do the session while they're on the road, because that's what that officer needs at that time. I was actually here at 6:30 this morning for a session because that's what worked for the responder who was about to go on shift. And so we can make it work in a different way. And I think they really appreciate that we work with them and they're willing to work with us. It's usually not cut or dry as far as a clinic day, exclusive clinic day versus an embedded day. It can be as flexible as I need it to be. So like an embedded day at my site, I might do like 3 or 4 sessions, and then, just kind of wander around the building and harass people, or, check in on anybody who I haven't seen in a while. We can just run over to one of the fire stations and park ourselves there, jump on a truck with them. If they get a call, and sometimes we're eating meals with them. Sometimes a clinic day can start out with that in mind. And then if something comes up, we have that flexibility to, like, oh, so-and-so called from wherever and they need a little support. And when we're available, our team, we just check who has the time, and then we work it out that way. Don't hesitate to call and ask questions. Maybe Rick himself will be able to call them back and answer their questions, or one of our HR folks. I think, you never really know until you get started. When you get into a pickle and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, there is somebody else who's been through something similar, or they have more experience than you do. So especially for a new clinician, fantastic. I can't say enough good things about that support. And it's really organic. We have our staff meetings, but it's just you walk out of your office and you sigh because that session was hard. Somebody's gonna see that and they're gonna be like, hey, what's going on with you? What do you need? How can I support you? And sometimes that it feels overwhelming in a good way, that we're giving so much to our clients, but we're also looking out for each other to make sure that everybody's in a good place to offer really great counseling. In other therapy practices, somebody finishes therapy and they go on and they live their life, and you don't know what happens with them. You don't know how their relationships turn out or anything like that. Whereas it's a pretty small community, even if with those agencies we're not embedded in. So we will run into our clients in the future, especially if it's one of our agencies. And so we get to see how they're putting that into place, how they are supporting their coworkers by recommending our services when they see somebody struggling, those kinds of things. So you still get that relationship, and you get to see that they're thriving. And also, if 5 years down the road something happens for them, they feel, it's hopefully easier for them to come back for kind of a checkup. The work that we do is exceptional, but we wouldn't be able to do that work without the kind of team that we have and the support that we have among the clinicians, and the support that our owner, Rick Baker, provides so that we can do that work well.